Few figures in history have left a mark as profound and enduring as Pythagoras. When most hear his name, the immediate association is with the famous geometric theorem that bears his name. Yet, Pythagoras was far more than a mathematician. He was a philosopher, a mystic, and the founder of a unique intellectual and spiritual movement that wove together science, ethics, and metaphysics. His ideas shaped not only mathematics, but also philosophy, music, and cosmology, influencing Western civilization for thousands of years. This is the story of Pythagoras, the man, his teachings, and the legacy that continues to resonate through the ages. Pythagoras was born around 570 BCE on the Greek island of Samos, a small but vibrant community in the eastern Aegean Sea. His father, Menesarchus, was a merchant possibly dealing in precious gems, and his mother, Pythagoras, was a native of the island. Some accounts suggest Menesarchus originally came from Tyre, in what is now Lebanon, before settling in Samos. He grew up in a family with enough means to provide him with a broad education. From a young age, Pythagoras was immersed in the intellectual currents of his time. The Ionian philosophers, such as Thales and Anaximander, who sought rational explanations for the natural world, deeply influenced him. Thales, often regarded as the first philosopher, is said to have sparked Pythagoras' fascination with mathematics and astronomy. Another key influence was Pherecydes of Syros, who introduced him to ideas about the soul and the cosmos, concepts that would later become central to Pythagorean spirituality. In his youth, Pythagoras embarked on extensive travels that shaped his worldview. Around 535 BCE, possibly fleeing the oppressive rule of Polycrates on Samos, he journeyed to Egypt. There he spent about a decade studying under temple priests, immersing himself in sacred geometry, astronomy, and religious rites. This period was crucial as Egyptian knowledge deeply intertwined mathematics with spirituality, a synthesis that became a hallmark of Pythagorean thought. Following his time in Egypt, Pythagoras was reportedly taken to Babylon after the Persian conquest of Egypt in 525 BCE. In Babylon, he studied with the Magi, Persian priests renowned for their expertise in mathematics, astronomy, and mystical traditions. Some sources suggest he traveled as far as India, encountering Hindu spiritual and mathematical teachings, though this remains less certain. Returning briefly to Samos around 520 BCE, Pythagoras attempted to establish a school called the semicircle, but his ideas did not gain much traction. Disenchanted, he moved to Croton in southern Italy around 518 BCE, where he founded the Pythagorean school, a community that became the cradle of his revolutionary ideas. Pythagoras' teachings transcended mathematics. They formed a comprehensive worldview known as Pythagoreanism, blending philosophy, religion, and ethics into a unified system. At the heart of this system was the belief that numbers were the fundamental reality underlying the cosmos. To Pythagoras and his followers, the universe was a harmonious structure governed by numerical relationships. One of the most iconic symbols of Pythagoreanism was the tetractys, a triangular figure composed of 10 points arranged in 4 rows. This symbol represented cosmic harmony and the organization of the universe. It was revered as sacred and used in meditative and religious practices. Pythagorean philosophy emphasized the interplay of opposites, limit and unlimited, odd and even light and dark, believing these dualities created balance and order in the cosmos. This dualistic thinking extended to ethics, where moderation and harmony were paramount virtues. A cornerstone of Pythagorean religious belief was the immortality and transmigration of the soul, known as metempsychosis. Pythagoras taught that the soul was eternal, cycling through various incarnations in human and animal bodies. This belief fostered a profound respect for all living beings, underpinning the Pythagorean practice of vegetarianism. To harm an animal was to harm a soul that might once have been human. The Pythagorean community was highly disciplined and secretive. New initiates underwent a rigorous 5-year silence to cultivate self-control and absorb teachings. The community was divided into 2 groups, the acousmatikoi, focused on religious observances, and the mathematikoi, who pursued philosophical and scientific studies. Communal living was another hallmark of the Pythagorean way of life. Members shared property, adhered to strict ethical codes, and practiced rituals designed to purify the soul. Pythagoras himself was revered as a semi-divine figure, blending mysticism and philosophy in his leadership. Pythagoras' most famous legacy is undoubtedly the Pythagorean Theorem, a fundamental principle in geometry. It states that in a right-angled triangle, the square of the hypotenuse equals the sum of the squares of the other two sides. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. This theorem is foundational in mathematics, with applications spanning architecture, engineering, physics, and beyond. While evidence suggests that the Babylonians knew related principles centuries earlier, beyond geometry, Pythagoras and his followers made groundbreaking contributions to number theory. They classified numbers into categories such as odd, even, and perfect numbers, numbers equal to the sum of their divisors, like 6 and 28. This classification system really laid the groundwork for modern number theory. One profound discovery attributed to the Pythagoreans was irrational numbers. The realization that the square root of 2 could not be expressed as a ratio of integers challenged their belief that all numbers were rational, shaking their numerical worldview and pushing mathematics toward abstraction. The Pythagorean school also pioneered the use of mathematical proofs, moving away from empirical observation toward logical deduction. This methodological shift was crucial in the development of mathematics as a rigorous discipline. Pythagoras' fascination with numbers extended into music. He discovered that musical intervals corresponded to simple numerical ratios. For example, the octave corresponds to a 2-to-1 ratio, the fifth to 3-to-2, and the fourth to 4-to-3. This insight led to the development of the Pythagorean tuning system, which influenced music theory for centuries. This connection between mathematics and music reinforced the Pythagorean belief in cosmic harmony. They proposed that the planets and stars moved according to mathematical ratios, producing a music of the spheres, a celestial symphony inaudible to human ears but reflecting the universe's perfect order. The Pythagorean school in Croton was more than an academic institution. It was a tightly knit community devoted to intellectual and spiritual growth. Members lived communally, shared resources, and adhered to strict ethical and dietary rules. The school's secretive nature and rigorous discipline fostered a unique environment where philosophy, science, and religion intertwined. The influence of the Pythagorean school extended far beyond its immediate circle. Plato, Aristotle, and other classical philosophers drew heavily on Pythagorean ideas, especially the notion that numbers and mathematical forms underpin reality. The school's integration of mathematics with philosophy helped shape the trajectory of Western thought. Pythagoreanism also influenced early scientific thought, particularly in astronomy and music theory. The emphasis on harmony and proportion resonated through the Renaissance and into modern science. No writings by Pythagoras himself survive, and much of what is known about him comes from later sources, often blending fact with legend. The Pythagorean school produced texts attributed to him, but these were likely written by his followers. This lack of direct writings complicates the study of Pythagoras' work, as it is difficult to separate his original ideas from those developed by his disciples. Nonetheless, the philosophical and mathematical principles associated with his name have endured, testifying to his profound influence. Pythagoras' life and work represent a remarkable fusion of mathematics, philosophy, and spirituality. From his early years on Samos through his travels and the founding of his school in Croton, he sought to understand the universe through numbers and harmony. His teachings on the immortality of the soul, ethical living, and the mathematical structure of reality laid the foundation for Western philosophy and science. The Pythagorean Theorem remains a cornerstone of geometry, while the school's broader ideas about harmony and proportion continue to inspire fields as diverse as music, cosmology, and metaphysics. Though shrouded in mystery and legend, Pythagoras' legacy is a testament to the power of curiosity and discipline. In the end, Pythagoras was not just the man behind a theorem, he was a visionary who glimpsed the universe as a harmonious whole, forever changing how humanity understands itself and the cosmos.